Wholeness, beautiful beings, welcome to my channel. My name is Rashida Silvertree, and today's topic, out of my handy dandy notebook, we're going to talk about family and how recognizing the human being in our parents can liberate us from general curses. This topic I wrote several weeks ago, but recently I spoke to my mother for over almost 3 hours. Um, in my personal life, I don't really engage with my parents on a day-to-day, daily basis. If anything, not even weekly. Usually it's, I've been trying to talk to my dad a lot more. I've been trying to, poke in and out with my mom. My siblings, I don't talk to hardly ever. My other relatives, like my grandmother, my uncle, will pop in from time to time just to make sure I have a pulse. And there are many different dynamics and reasons for that. Unfortunately, I don't have that close knit, tight knit family where we're all supporting each other's life events, not just death, not just when a family member ends up in a casket, in a coffin, or cremated. It's like, there are families out there who show up for every birthday, for every graduation, for every musical event, for every birth, for every holiday. And unfortunately, it's just not like that anymore. And there are reasons for that. I'm learning and practicing to actively be more present with that and not let the bitterness and resentment settle in too much, because that can really tarnish the bloodline, that can tarnish the bloodline in future generations, and it can make it that much harder for real love and guidance to come through from our ancestors if we in the present moment hold continuous grudges towards those who are here and those who are not here anymore. So it's an ongoing practice for me. But anyway, so yeah, a few days ago I spoke to my mother for quite a long time on the phone, and it was. I'm not going to discuss what we spoke about because I have to have some level of privacy on this beautiful social media platform. But it was just full of a lot of validation, confirmation, a space for reflection. It was a safe space where both of us were just kind of going back and forth and listening to each other and venting to one another, on from cultural issues to internal and private issues within our own family dynamic, within our own relationship from my early childhood to now my womanhood, and from when she was a young adult to now, and where she's in her 60s now. And so it was very interesting, but a very heavy connection, there wasn't a lot of laughter. It was just this needed, visceral space of expression about certain things. And so this is actually something I started to practice, and I started to really see when I officially left the home for college. This was back in the early 2000s, so I was probably in my second or third year of college, second year really, going into my second year, where I realized and started to recognize the human in my parents. Because a lot of the time, and this is very natural, when they give birth to us, when they bring us into this big bad world of all these crazy obstacles and all these big things, and we need their guidance. We are dependent on them for our survival, right? And they have to give us and share the tools to get through a lot of life's setbacks and obstacles and catastrophes, right? They have to give us the emotional, psychological, spiritual, and if you got it like that, financial tools to get through as young adults, right? And so I would, yeah, like every child, every normal human child, we idolize our parents, even if they mistreat us, even if they are abusive, or they themselves are lost and confused, right? And they're struggling with parenthood. No matter the type of care we give them, we still put them on a pedestal because, again, like I said, they are the key to our survival in this reality, right? And our parents do the best that they can. And some parents are aware of this power, right? They hold a lot of power, a lot of influence when we're young, like they are our God. I know that sounds blasphemous and kind of outside there and crazy, but hear me out. Like they literally, we learn what God is through our parents or lack thereof. We learn what feels good and what feels heavenly and what feels safe and what feels hellish and dangerous and unsafe through our parents. They are our first. They are like the God and the goddess. What it is to be man, what it is to be woman, and all that's in between. And what it is to be vulnerable and what it is to be hard and just like hard and or soft and approachable. They teach us all of these things, or they don't, and we have to learn from other sources in the real world all that they do not teach us and all that they do not prepare us for. The world prepares us, the world teaches us. And for parents who have enough self-awareness, they know this, and so they do the best that they can to provide and to prepare us for this, right? And sometimes they miss the mark, and sometimes they're right on target. So, recognizing the human being in our parents doesn't come until you're on your own, usually. It's very hard as a young child, well, a toddler, okay, as a young child and as a teen and even a young adult to see the human in your parent, their mom, their dad. But when you go out into the world and you explore and you have your own failures, you have your own setbacks, you have your own betrayals and heartbreaks, you have your own financial woes and your own financial successes and your own accomplishments or lack thereof, or you face your inner limitations and your mental health issues and your spiritual issues and roadblocks. Then you begin to see, oh, this is what mom was telling me all along. This is what dad was trying to tell me all along. Those of us who are even lucky to have our parents throughout our entire childhood to young adult era, okay? Because some people only have one parent or no parents at all, and they rely on strangers to take care of them, or they rely on family members to take care of them, or they rely on the state, they rely on no one. And that's hard. That's different. I'm not speaking on that. I'm speaking directly to those of you who are blessed to have living, breathing parents, whether you're on the same page or you talk to them or whatever. I'm talking to you as a reminder. So back on track, the only time we can really resonate with our parents is when we're out on our own and we metamorphosize into the young adults from teen years, right? We can see their inner wounds. We can see their setbacks. They no longer are placed on this pedestal, this god or goddess pedestal anymore. They're released from that. You can see that their sensitivities and their vulnerabilities and their need to be heard, their need to express themselves. And then they also move and shift. I remember both my parents didn't, the first time I heard my parents swear, it just shocked me. And look, I didn't grow up in this square-ish family type of lifestyle. Like, it was wild sometimes, you know what I'm saying? It was unpredictable. It was interesting, an interesting upbringing. But when they realized that I was breaking into my adulthood and my womanhood, they kind of eased up and they could relax a bit. And they could approach me with adult things and adult themes and adult concerns, that would be helpful for me, right? And I was exposed to a lot of adult things growing up. I really was. At a very young age, I was exposed to things that, 10, 11, 12-year-old kid And by the time I was 20 or 21, I pretty much knew what to avoid, um, and sometimes even though I knew what to avoid, I still, that curious part of my mind and part of me wanted to experience it anyways. Hard lessons learned. But this is to say, remember, to those of you who are young, you're in your 20s, or you're a teen, and you're figuring your ish out, and your parents are, you're like, oh, my parents are never here for me, you know. Some of the parents in their parenthood, they struggled. They weren't the best examples. They pretty much showed you what not to do, you know. And then you reach a point in your life, you're like, oh, this is why mom struggled with this. This is why dad struggled with this. This is why they both struggled with this. They're not evil. They're not bad. You see them, you get a full circle of who they are, rather than being someone all bad or angelic, like they've never done anything and they're just pure, and they're just like this Mother Teresa. And I kid you not, our parents are not. They're not, they're not Mother Teresa's or the Pope, or like just a goody two shoes. And on the other spectrum, on the other side of the spectrum, they're not all bad and all crappy. Okay, maybe some are, but with that, as an adult, you can realize and recognize the human, and you can see the decisions and the choices and the influence that pushed them into a certain direction, that took them down a certain path. Really and truly, it's very interesting. So I just wanted to share that, with those of you who have odd family dynamics of, like when you're entering into middle age from your 20s, even you're entering into your 30s and 40s, like you see, you have your respect for your parent, or lack thereof, changes and shifts as you grow and as you evolve, right? And those parents that probably never did really deserved you, even then you can rewrite the story and the definition and the narrative of the roles your mother and father played in your life. Like maybe they did those bad things to teach you something, to expose you to something, to express something to you that would help you help other people. And maybe they truly were your guiding light during some dark shit happening in your life. There are, and again, I stress cycles and seasons. Everyone has them. And sometimes your parents show up right in the nick of time, right when your parent right when you needed your parent the most, your mom or your dad, and they show up. They may not be perfect. They are, flawed as earth. Like got their own ish going on, egos and hurt and wounds, but they show up anyway. And then you have those moments where they completely miss the mark. Right when you needed them most, right when you needed them to show up, they didn't. And you are just by yourself, having to figure the shit out on your own. And that's hard. That's hard. Right? This is life. But recognizing when you're entering into the space where they decided to have you, right? Whether by accident or planned, but you popped up into their life. You enter into that same season, and then your ability to see things and perceive things shifts and changes. And that's where compassion can be activated. That's where forgiveness and gratitude can come through. I can never sit here and say I hate. Hate is such a strong word. It's a curse word to me. All the other curse words I can say, but hate, it's like I better really feel very strongly about something with a good reason to ever really use that word. But I can never say I hate my parents. If anything, I'm grateful. I chose them in spirit. They chose me in spirit. And we all chose to share this life experience together, whether however far I travel and however, near I am. Like, they're a gift to me, and I'm actively working on forgiveness with things that the mistakes that they've made that affected my life. This is very, very important. Very important. Because with all this hype of, for those of you who feel called to continue the path of parenthood, oh, I want to be a mom, I want to be a dad. Well, how do you view your mother? How do you view your father? It's tough stuff, because all the things that we suppress get passed down to the next generation to deal with. I wish that weren't true, but it is true. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to connecting in the next message.